Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, the 4th of August. My name is Kyle. I'm here to give you the AI news and updates of the day. We're catching up with what's been happening over the weekend. It's been relatively quiet, but we're just going to have a look at a couple of news stories as well as answer questions coming directly from the live audience as well. Hello to the people who are logging on live, and thank you. Oh, you're sending hearts already. Thank you. That really helps to get the visibility of the stream up as well. So thank you for that. So what do we have today? A couple of things, nothing really big. I have the feeling we're about to see GPT-5 soon, maybe this week, maybe in the next couple of weeks. And it feels like everything's kind of quieted down a bit, maybe because other AI companies know what's going on. So I don't think there's any big releases announced for this week, potentially because GPT-5 is on its way or soon enough, but we'll see. As always with these things, it's all speculation until it happens. So what do we have? A couple of things. Oh, I'm having a little problem here. We're having trouble posting to LinkedIn. We'll live. So LinkedIn is such a funny place. I need to be on it because, for professional reasons. But every time I go onto LinkedIn, I just hate being there. And it's one of the social media networks that has actually embraced artificial intelligence in a way that I think is incredibly destructive. So they are not only allowing AI generated comments, but they're also, if you have a premium LinkedIn account, you can actually generate AI comments or kind of canned responses to other people's responses directly. So they're kind of pushing it because it increases engagement, even if it's, destroying the platform. Already LinkedIn was a bit of a mess. What I find, an awful lot of people are very fake's the wrong word, inauthentic, I would say, because everyone's trying to put on this professional persona and it comes across as quite bizarre and unreal sometimes. But the fact that LinkedIn have also embraced AI, they're not cracking down on AI comments, they're not cracking down on AI posts, and they're allowing you to use an auto generation to respond to things is, I think, very short-sighted. A lot of the other social media platforms at least realize that AI could be a problem and it could destroy the reason we use social networks, which is for social interaction. So Reddit is going the same way as well, but at least people on Reddit know. And whenever there's a ChatGPT post or ChatGPT comment, people will call it out and say, get this ChatGPT out of here. This is actually connected to a few of the things I want to talk about today. Even though I'm going on a ramble about, increasingly I'm seeing lots of popular backlash. So celebrities and, as we'll see in a moment, the Prime Minister of Sweden getting in trouble for even suggesting that they are using ChatGPT. Actually, I'll jump straight over to that. So we'll jump straight to, here we are, Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I'm sure I did. I'm actually going to Sweden in a few weeks, so my Swedish viewers can tell me off when I get there. So Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson uses AI services in his work as Sweden's highest decision maker. So he's the Prime Minister of Sweden, and there's a quote. This is a translated, but I think it's relatively accurate. I use it quite often myself, if nothing else, for a second opinion. What have others done? Should we think exactly the opposite? Those kind of questions, says the Prime Minister's. He points out there are no plans to upload political investigations, reports, motions, and decisions into language models, but the use is similar to doctors using AI to gain more perspective. So the highest decision maker in the country of Sweden, the Prime Minister, is using ChatGPT to check his own thinking and to kind of ask questions and as part of his decision-making process. Now, this seen a lot of backlash, especially on Reddit, with people saying it's an embarrassment. I can't believe he's leading the country. Lots of Swedish people were very annoyed about it as well. But I think he's just saying something. He's just being truthful about his usage, whereas a lot of people are doing it quietly. They're doing it on the side. I think as long as people are forced to use ChatGPT illicitly, to do it kind of under the radar, then we're not going to get the level of education required to be able to use it properly, because there are problems with using ChatGPT. There are problems with using generative AI. And if we don't get the right education, we're going to fall foul of those problems, like hallucinations, biases, the agreeableness of these models, and their tendency to agree with us. We can work around all of these things, but we need to know how to. And that's an education process. And as long as people are denying that they're even using it. As long as companies and organizations are saying you're not allowed to use it, people will continue to do so and are continuing to do so under the radar, and they're going to do it quietly, and they're not going to get better at doing it. This is the really large question here. So it sounds like the Prime Minister of Sweden is using it, probably a lot of other high government and decision makers as well, definitely people in companies. I work with an awful lot of them. And this sounds like the journalist asked a follow-up question. So they found out he uses ChatGPT. So the follow-up question, the obvious one was, are you uploading confidential information into it? Are you putting political investigations, reports, motions, and decisions into the language models? He said, no, we're not doing that, or I'm not doing that, which was the right answer. Whether or not that's true, we don't know, and there's no way to find out. But hopefully they're not, because there are data privacy issues that come from that, obviously. So I think we need to be a bit more open about it, because there was a report last week in America, 60% of people are using ChatGPT. So that is now the majority. This is a technology that is in its latest iteration since ChatGPT 3.5, GPT 3.5, only 2.5 years old. 60% adoption rate in 2.5 years is phenomenal. We might not, from where we're sitting right now, think of that as unusual, but compared to any other technology, that's amazing. That's much faster than the internet. The internet took a while to take hold. So we need our public, we need our decision makers like Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. Oh, I see a Swedish person in my chat. Hey, Leila. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. We need to make sure all these people have the right education to use these tools properly, because they are being used in daily life at the highest levels of government, the highest levels of corporation, and we need to make sure it's being used correctly. So yeah, there was a backlash against the Prime Minister, saying that, it's concerning that he was using ChatGPT. The other one, though, at exactly the same time, in more of the popular space, is a guy called Markiplier. So chances are you either know the Prime Minister of Sweden or you know Markiplier. That these are very different worlds, but if you know both, fantastic. So Markiplier is a game streamer. He's been around for a long time. Like, he's one of the original people, with people like PewDiePie, who, funnily enough, is also Swedish. Markiplier is not. He's American, I believe. He recently did like a live stream or skit where he was talking about almond farming. I think it was almond farming, and he asked ChatGPT about the amount of water that almond farming uses against how much water ChatGPT uses. And ChatGPT, he used the voice mode. ChatGPT said, "Oh, almond farming uses an awful lot more water than ChatGPT." And Markiplier was like, "Ah, you just telling me that because you're ChatGPT, etc." It was a joke. It was a skit. However, he was basically he's gotten a lot of trouble from his fan base. There are a lot of people in his fan base who have a rabid hatred of generative AI. A lot of them, and this is from the commentary I've been reading, a lot of them are artists, so people who create illustrations, who create graphics, to whom generative AI is understandably the devil. So even him joking at the expense of ChatGPT in this skit has been enough to trigger a response, coming down on him, calling him, irresponsible, saying that using it like Google in this way is destroying the planet, etc., etc. Even though he was taking the mickey out of ChatGPT, so he's kind of kicked back, and he's put out a live stream saying, hang on, I'm one of the first people who called this up and said that this is a potentially dangerous technology. It's going to be used a lot of electricity. It's going to do a lot of harm. So he's pointed back to old videos of himself talking about this is a problem. And he's brought up the evidence. He's got the receipts saying, yes, I've messed around a bit in the past. We did some kind of videos on it. We did some video thumbnails, etc. But mainly as a joke, and we haven't been using it since. And he seems to have proved his point, but people are very, very angry about it because he is such a public figure in that particular space. And he dared to use ChatGPT publicly. So in a weird parallel with the Prime Minister of Sweden, Markiplier, a Twitch, I'm not sure if he's on Twitch now, well, mainly a YouTuber, but I'm sure he's on Twitch too, has got in trouble for basically the same thing, using ChatGPT. So I think what we're going to increasingly see, and this will especially be the case as AI does start to take jobs, increasingly we're going to see this kind of public backlash against anyone who even dares to use it and to publicly admit that they've used ChatGPT. But the thing is, we know from the data that the majority of people are using it out there. 60% of people in America, it is a majority, and it is growing, and it is younger generations as well. So it's going to keep on increasing. So I wonder if this backlash is going to become a smaller minority, or if it's going to grow, and we will actually start to see the number of people using ChatGPT decreasing. I don't think so. I think what we'll probably see is, this might be brutal, but we'll probably see hypocrisy with people using it for things they think is okay, and then criticizing it for things they think are not okay. So it's okay to use for medical research, fine. It's okay to use, in some of my work tasks, but you must not use it for art. You must not use it for video creation. I think we're going to start to see a demarcation in good and bad uses. I actually think that's a decent way to approach this, because generative AI is a general purpose technology. It's like the internet. The things we can do with it can be good. The things we can do with it can be bad. We can build on top of the platform that is generative AI to do lots of different things. So I think we're going to start to see a split where we have to be more mindful of what we're using it for. And I think that's probably a positive thing, but that's going to require a lot of debate. It's going to require a lot of people like the Prime Minister of Sweden and Markiplier getting witch hunted for using ChatGPT until we get to the point where we're like, okay, maybe some uses are acceptable, whereas others are extremely problematic. That's going to take a while to get to, though. I'm going to jump over to some questions now. Jacob saying, time to cold email him a consulting offer. Is this for the Prime Minister of Sweden? Yeah, I'll find the Prime Minister of Sweden. I'm in Sweden on the 28th of August. So I'll go and see the Prime Minister and see if he needs some help. Let me see what questions we have. So I just need to scroll through this gigantic list. Good morning, everybody. So I'm in Sweden with Lovable. So I won a competition with Lovable. They had a boot camp accelerator called Lovable Shipped, and about a month ago, I helped give away my buddy code. So I got a lot of people to join their program, and I gave away the most buddy codes out of everybody. And so they're flying me over to Sweden, and I'm going to go to Stockholm and meet the team, which would be pretty cool. I really like Lovable. If you've ever seen any of my videos or any of my live streams, I go on and on and on about Lovable. Not sponsored by them. Maybe in the future I should talk to them, really. But yeah, it's a really exciting tool. I think it's the fastest growing company in human history. It's the fastest company to hit $100 million recurring annual recurring revenue ever. So they are going places, and I'm very excited to go meet them. Shan says, who do they check as to whether GPT has been used for the right purposes? So we don't. So this is a big question, is what are good uses and what are bad uses of ChatGPT? It's not an objective answer. We can't just point to art and say, oh, that's a bad use of it. And we can't just point to creating charity reports and say that's a good use of it. It's going to be a lot more nuanced than that, because it's going to depend on what we find valuable versus the ill effects of ChatGPT. And there are definitely ill effects of AI. There is the electricity cost. There is the fact that it is outsourcing a lot of our critical thinking, and that people use it unthinkingly. There are multiple reasons why AI needs to be dealt with very sensitively and carefully, but we need to all personally balance out what we're using it for against the downsides. The same with any technology, honestly. It's going to be a personal choice, and we need to work that out. And then cumulatively, what we think individually will stack up, and that will be how our particular societies start to think about artificial intelligence. But we need to start by thinking about it ourselves, come up with what is acceptable for us versus what is unacceptable. So for me, for example, I don't do much AI video. I've played with it. I think it's fun. I don't think it's particularly useful for my work. Therefore, that's not something that I've gone charging into. It's also, of all of the different generative AIs, it does use the most power. It's the most intensive. So that is a much bigger, it's a much heavier weight on the scale compared to text, for example. So because electricity is a large problem in generative AI, and it is something that needs to be resolved and worked on, at least text uses a lot less electricity than images and video. So again, this is all going to be personal. It's going to be subjective. It's going to be about what you personally think is acceptable. But all of this comes from knowledge. So there was a post I saw on LinkedIn the other day where they put together these beautiful graphics, and they were all about how much water ChatGPT uses, and it's using the electricity of 45,000 homes, and it's just made up numbers entirely. And people were posting down below and saying, "Oh, actually, it doesn't use that much water," and these where are you getting these figures from? And then those people were getting attacked. So it just became a motive. We need to have the actual data at our fingertips so that we can make these decisions. And as long as people are fully emotional about artificial intelligence, we cannot have those discussions. So we kind of need to move past that so we can work out the data, work out the true costs, and then we can make informed decisions. But until we kind of calm down a bit, that's going to be impossible. And people are just going to argue from emotion first. Gandalf the Green says, what are your concerns around AI? There are plenty. So I think, gosh, so electricity is the big one. Water is not. Water is a red herring. But electricity usage is a big one. So the global IT uses about 1.5 to 2% of the world's electricity right now, which is small. But that is set to potentially double in the next 5 years or so because of generative AI, mainly to do with training. It's not really inference. It's not us asking ChatGPT and ChatGPT sending us responses. It's the training that uses a huge amount of energy. There's also the energy in creating the GPUs, the semiconductors, powering the data centers, etc., etc., is a huge amount of electricity. However, it behooves the companies creating generative AI to reduce those costs because their main cost base is electricity. So their profit incentive is actually aligned with the good of the planet. This is why various generative AI companies are looking at nuclear power and acquiring or building nuclear power stations. And they're always trying to make their algorithms more efficient to use less electricity, because by doing so, they drive down the cost. This is not out of the goodness of their heart. They will wrap it up like that. They'll put out reports about how green they are, about how they're carbon neutral. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they make more money. They make more money if their electricity costs are lower. But thankfully, that is aligned with better environmental practices. But we still need to remember that even if AI is taking up, 4 or 5% of the world's electricity, that's only 5%. There is a huge amount of other stuff out there which is not being focused on right now because it's not the hot topic. But in terms of the negatives, yeah, there's definitely power. There is the fact that it does allow us to turn off our brains. We can use it as a co-intelligence. We can use it to leverage our intelligence. A lot of people are not. They are just abdicating all responsibility to AI and not having to think. So that's going to be a problem. I think companionship is also AI companionship could be a great thing because it could help decrease loneliness by giving people an AI companion. But at the same time, it's going to decrease those people's ability to interface with, interact with, and build actual human relationships. So I think in the next decade or so, that's probably a Trojan horse, which is going to creep in. 16% of Americans are using AI for companionship, and that raises to 25% when it's the young adults, so between 18 and 29. And I think it's going to be more than 25% under 18. We just don't have the figures for it. But Character AI, which is a companionship-based AI, is number 3 globally. It's ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Character AI. So this is a huge usage of artificial intelligence. I think that's going to lead to problems in the future. We have problems with incels right now. I think companion AIs could push us even further down that particular rabbit hole. So there are multiple, I could keep going on, multiple negative aspects of artificial intelligence. There are also As you can probably guess, I'm pro AI. Many, many wonderful things that we can do with it as well, but we need to be aware of both sides. And I think too few people are. Most people will be all in, 100% positive AI, and they won't hear anything bad against it. And then there are people on the other side who are all in negative and won't hear anything good about it. In reality, life is boring and things tend to be grey and in the middle somewhere and more complicated. And unfortunately, that's just how the world is. Everything is a bit more, well, more grey and less black and white. So we just need to be aware of that. Ed says, have you looked at giving advice for high school kids to AI proof themselves? So I don't have kids myself, so I don't think this is something that's suitable for me to do, because I don't know what they do with AI. That's not my world. There are lots of people who are working in this space though, who are either helping to equip teachers with, this is how you use AI, both how to use AI to reduce your workload so you can teach more, but also how you should be thinking about AI for the kids. I know there are other experts who work in parenting, so how to use, how parents should be thinking about AI and what they should be doing with their kids. And then there are people who are talking directly to kids, to high schoolers. That is not my world, but there are other experts. Sorry, I just call myself an expert. There are better experts in those fields who are doing that work, but that's not really for me. I focus more on marketing and business and starting businesses using artificial intelligence, just because that's what I know and that's my background. But I think it's incredibly important work, just not for me. One of my lights just died. Oh well. Jack is saying there should be more openness using AI, but also a push to use renewable for data centers. Yes, yes, and yes to both of these things. We can't tackle the problems of AI unless we are open about its usage, and renewables are going to be very important for pushing forward. There's some pretty wild ideas about floating data centers, and there's a lot of big ideas going on, but basically money will be pumped into cheaper sources of energy, because we need to drive down the cost of electricity, because that allows those businesses to make more money. So I'm kind of confident in them dealing with the problem, because they make more money. So OpenAI will make more money, Microsoft will make more money, Google will make more money if they manage to get cheaper electricity for their models, if they manage to make their models less pricey to run. So I guess call me optimistic, but based on the fact that I think greed will drive down the costs. So this isn't altruism, but this is greed driven, but it is aligned with environmental. So with the environmental improvements as well. So that's a good thing. I'm just going to grab another light. These are wonderful lights, but they do need to be charged. There we go. What I have to do. Bit better. Maya says, can you say hi? Hi, Maya. What are the latest AI breakthroughs? So we haven't had that much in the last couple of weeks. As I mentioned at the top of this live, I think everyone is keeping quiet because they're expecting GPT-5. So anything that is released now will be kind of swept away by GPT-5. The latest breakthroughs have been, gosh, I mean, if you look at my lives, you can see them. They've been mainly Grok. So we had Grok, we had the new Gemini, we had the passing of the International Math Olympiad, which was a really big deal. Breakthrough-wise, they're probably the largest in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, because I think everyone is keeping quiet for GPT-5. In terms of news, though, probably the most important piece of news, which has flown under the radar, is the fact that Meta, so Mark Zuckerberg's company that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc., they have indicated that they're going to close their models. So they won't be open source anymore. They're going to close off their models and not make them publicly available. That's probably the biggest, not very exciting, but probably the biggest movement in artificial intelligence, because it means the West has basically said China is doing open source and the West is doing closed source, and that's it. So we've just seen a complete split, a bifurcation in how we're building artificial intelligence models, because all of the top Chinese models are open source. So DeepSeek, Qwen, Minimax, and the others are all open source, whereas the only one that was left in the West was Llama and Mistral, I guess, to a certain extent. But Llama and Meta have said, nope, we're not doing open source anymore, or they've indicated they're not going to be open source. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of news, but it's quite quiet and subtle. And I don't think the ramifications of that have been realized yet. Jack says video gen AI should be extremely limited for general population use. So I assume that's connected to the electricity and computational costs. Yes, very high. This is why I don't personally use it. It's a really fun toy for most people, but it's a fun toy that comes at a very high cost. So I have played around with it. Obviously, that's part of my job, trying out Veo, trying out Sora, etc. But it's not something that is part of my regular workflow. But so a lot of people are using these models to basically make the epitome of AI slop. It's the short videos that go on YouTube Shorts, that go on TikTok, etc., to make a huge amount of money because people will watch AI slop. So that, for me, is one of the least attractive uses of artificial intelligence. YouTube are cracking down on it, for example, trying to remove it from their ecosystem. I don't know how successful they've been, but they've indicated that's what they're trying to do. As of the 15th of July, they've demonetized channels that produce inauthentic content, but who knows how successful that will be. Okay, I'm going to hop over to actually a YouTube related piece of content, which was, so this is connected to, it's not just in the UK. So in the UK, Australia, and now in the US, there are increasing pushes to age check content. So in the UK, it's called the Online Safety Act. I keep forgetting the name of it. Yeah, the Online Safety Act. So the Online Safety Bill or Act is in the UK, basically age gating content that children should not be able to see. So that includes pornographic material, etc. However, the remit of the bill in the UK and in Australia now and in the US, we're starting to see from parallel pieces of legislation, is starting to creep. So we knew this would happen because these bills are very loosely worded. It's basically anything that can harm children comes under scrutiny from these bills. So it's very much like that Simpsons meme, you know, the won't anyone think of the children kind of thing like that. The thing is, the argument of we need to protect our children, which is a good one, is being used to push through legislation which tightens online control and requires ID, and it requires us to be tracked more online, which is problematic, very problematic. I used to live in China, and it was very much like this. Everything was controlled, and you have to use your ID everywhere. And in China, well, so the West would look at that and be like, oh, that's a bit authoritarian. We're doing exactly the same thing in the West, exactly the same thing, but we are doing it under the guise of, oh, we need to protect the children. We do, but this is not the way to do it. So what's happening is increasingly there are age verifications on, yes, adult websites, so Pornhub, for example, but it's starting to creep into things like Reddit. So Reddit has an age verification. Spotify for songs that have explicit lyrics, and it's just going to keep on creeping and creeping and creeping out with more and more information being collected about us. And what we're doing is we are happily, scanning our passports or scanning our faces, given biometric information, which is going to a third-party company, generally in the US, which will probably be monetized. That is information, data that it will probably be put into an AI, or it will be sold, or it will be packaged up. But something's going to happen with it, which I don't trust is going to be in our best benefits. Or there will be a data breach, and then all our passports are out there flapping the wind for everyone to see. So YouTube is one of the latest here. So they're doing it slightly differently, where they have an AI which can look at what you're watching and use that to decide if you're under 18. So if you're watching a lot of Roblox videos, for example, it's probably going to assume you're under 18. And then it will ignore the age you tell it and say, no, 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 you're actually 14 or you're actually 13, which is really funny because there are going to be some adults who watch, you know, I don't know, Scooby-Doo episodes from the 1980s or whatever it is, and they watch like child content, and YouTube's going to flag them up and say, you're a child, prove your age, which is amusing. So this is, again, it's wrapped up in we want to protect the children, but it's all about online control. Where this gets really scary is it can start to affect net neutrality. So we might see other services like Cloudflare and servers and stuff like that starting to introduce these rules as well, and to track what we're doing online, and to potentially restrict access to services, restrict access to websites based on our activities, which becomes a bit scary. And again, it's all wrapped up in language and an argument which is very hard to argue against, because immediately you will be accused of being a sex pest or a pedophile. So they're using that to squish through control. And this is happening in the UK, it's happening in Australia, and it's happening in America now. And it's all about controlling people online. I saw one of the most wonderful ways to get around this, though, was so right now, here we go, Reddit and Discord. Okay, Discord has added age verification as well. So Reddit and Discord's age verification can be defeated by Death Stranding's photo mode. So Death Stranding is a video game, a fantastic video game, one of my favorite. Death Stranding 2 just came out a few months ago. And there's basically a photorealistic version of Norman Reedus, Daryl from The Walking Dead. You probably know him as. He is the main character in the game. And there's a photo mode in Death Stranding 2. What this means is when a website asks for a photo of your face, so it can work out how old you are, people are just booting up Death Stranding, getting their camera, pointing at this photorealistic image of Norman Reedus, and then they're able to rotate him, make him smile, open his mouth, etc., in order to fool this age verification. Because now they don't just require a photo, they ask you like to look up, look down, look left, look right, open your eyes, do a smile, etc., because they want to check that you're a real person. This has been overridden by using basically a video game character, Norman Reedus in this case. So what Reddit started to try and do, people tried to work out what was the most basic fake character they could use to bypass this. And they ended up using Garry's Mod. So I think Garry's Mod is from Half-Life 2, which is pretty old. And they were still able to get through it, basically. So these age verification tools are, put it this way, young people know how to get around them. Young people are going to be using VPNs. They're going to be using Norman Reedus's face from Death Stranding. They're going to be using Garry's Mod. They are going to work out how to bypass these things. And the people who are left getting punished by this are older people who are uploading their passports into God knows whose server whenever they want to access adult material. So I think this is an ill thought out push in the guise of we need to protect the children. That isn't actually going to protect any children because kids are very smart and they're going to be able to work their way around all of these age gating. They've got a lot of free time, and they talk to each other online. So they're going to be able to work their way around this. So the only people who are going to get stung by this are the adults uploading their identifiable personal information, which is then going to be probably sold on or used to train an AI or data leaked at some point. So I think the whole thing is a mess. But of course, I can't criticize it because then people will accuse me of hating children, which is unfortunate. So yeah, it's just ongoing state control, but we can work around it. I'm surprised people haven't made AI tools to go around these. I'm sure somebody will very, very shortly. Let me hop over to questions. I've just lost everything. Ed Endry says, will China win the AI battle? Whew, that's a big question. So it is a two-horse race now. It is between the United States, specifically Silicon Valley, and China, and that's it. So the EU has removed itself. The UK removed itself a while ago. I've actually just read an article about Demis Hassabis, who is the head of DeepMind Google DeepMind, who is a homegrown British, AI genius, but that was purchased by Google. So DeepMind was purchased by Google. So basically, America vacuums up any Western talent because they have the money. So the only other horse in the race right now is China. China are going a very different way. As I mentioned before, all of their models pretty much are open source. They are releasing their models. I talked on Friday, I think it was, about why this is. They're playing the longer game. So if you know anything about Chinese history, I studied Chinese history at uni. I've lived in China. I speak decent Mandarin. If you know anything about Chinese history, everything's much longer timescales. In the West, we tend to think in the next couple of years, the next 4 years generally, because that's how long our presidents or our prime ministers tend to be around, and we're not very good at looking beyond that. So Chinese history is very much longer time spans, and means projects can be put in place, like the Great Green Wall of China, which is reforesting, or not even reforesting, just growing huge amounts of trees. Was started back in, I think, the 70s, and they're still doing it now. Projects go over decades rather than, oh, what can we build in the next year or two? So I think because of this, and because of the fact that AI is a long-term global technological shift, I think China's in a really good position right now. What they're doing with their open models is smart, because the Western models, so OpenAI, xAI, Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, etc., they're all driven by profit. Yes, OpenAI is a capped for profit, but still, they need to make money. They're backed by venture capitalists, they're backed by investors, and they need to make cash. The Chinese models, on the other hand, they've got government support. So every large tech company in China has a wedge of equity that is owned by the government. So that's just part of operating. You must have some form of government equity in there. And the money has a much longer horizon to pay back. So I think that puts them in a really good position, because the American companies need to continuously release stuff. They need to continuously wow investors, need to continuously outperform each other in order to stay relevant. And that's why we see OpenAI dropping things like the study mode last week. It just kind of to stay in the news cycle, to constantly be top of mind as, the forefront of AI. The Chinese companies don't need to worry about that as much. They can just continue chugging along and making good models and releasing them open source. So in America, everything, you have to pay for it. It's a closed source model. So if you want to access the API, you're going to pay. The Chinese models are free. They are open source. You can download it onto a local computer, or more realistically onto a server, and run the model from there. That is going to be really important in the rest of the world. So we tend to think of America and Europe. Probably most of the people watching this are from those areas. So that's what we see. That's what we think of. The rest of the world needs models. So we're talking about South America, we're talking about Africa, we're talking about the rest of Asia as well. They will more likely go towards the Chinese models because they are open source. And so I think the play for China here is you get the models as the basis, the platform that people build upon, and then later down the line you can monetize. So in the same way that Android, for example, is a platform, Google released Android for free, it doesn't cost anything, and then device creators like Samsung started to put Android operating systems onto their devices. And then later down the line, Google can monetize that. They can turn Android into a product. So products that are purchased through the Google Play Store, for example, Google then takes a cut. So I think the Chinese companies on the whole are following that platform play. You get it out as many places as possible, so that people start to build with it. And then later on down the line, you can monetize it through consultancy services, through hosting. So Alibaba, Tencent, etc., have cloud hosts. So that's going to be a lot easier to do. And just other ways to monetize, which are not just charging people up front. So I think that's a long play and it's a smart play, and we'll have to see how it pans out. It's also good for China's brand. So China uses soft power to push its brand. Yeah, I mean, it's power basically globally. So that's why they're in African nations right now, building roads, building schools, building infrastructure, which Western colonizers never did. They were terrible there. China at least is going in there, building infrastructure, and then at the same time claiming mining rights. It's a very soft and subtle way to build power. And giving artificial intelligence away as open source models is part of that as well. It's a cultural and a brand move as well. So I think over the long run, it may be more sustainable because Silicon Valley will overinvest and we will see a correction, as we always do with all of these things. We'll probably have another dot-com boom, hopefully not, sorry, dot-com bust, hopefully not as large as back in 2001, but we will see a correction because right now, any business with every business have to basically tack AI, artificial intelligence, onto their name or into their description to make money, to raise any amount of cash, which means stupid money is being spent right now, and there will be a correction. And China will probably avoid that and just keep chugging along and keep building. But we'll see. It's a big question. Who will win kind of depends on who gets to AGI first as well. Can you go over the important settings to keep your info private from feeding AI and generally? So very, very, very basically, if you're using ChatGPT, there is a toggle. They hide it away. I'm going to put it up because they hide it. They're very cheeky. So if you go into ChatGPT, you go to your account, you go to settings, you go to data controls, and then there is a toggle called improve the model for everyone. So this is what you need to turn off. So improve your model for everyone, allow your content to be used to train our models, which makes ChatGPT better for you and everyone who uses it. We take steps to protect your privacy. So you can turn that off. So they've couched it in language which makes you not want to turn it off because you're mean if you turn it off, and you don't want it to be better for yourself and other people. But that is basically, can we use your information to train our models? But they've hidden it away in the settings and they've called it improve the model for everyone. Turn that off, and that means that theoretically your information is not used to train the model. However, we're not sure how much we can trust that. So right now, the New York Times is suing ChatGPT and saying, we want you to keep record of every single thing that is kept on, that is sent to and sent out of ChatGPT. We do not know if OpenAI are doing that. Most people say no, because the amount of information would just be too huge. It would require, much like the data centers required to store all of that information in its raw form are it just wouldn't be feasible, but we don't know. So OpenAI is a relatively new company. We tend to be, we give away so much of our information to Google and Microsoft and these kind of companies because they've been around for so long. We implicitly kind of trust that they're not going to mess it up, despite the fact that they do have data leaks. Whereas with OpenAI, we don't know. We really don't know. We know they've been shifty with their training. So they're a little bit lax on, I would say, data controls and data honoring data. So there were things like Mira Murati, who was the CTO of OpenAI. She was asked in an interview, did you scrape YouTube to train ChatGPT? And the meme is just her face. She goes, like, she pulls this silly face because she can't lie. Because if she lies publicly on video, they're in trouble. But she also couldn't admit it. So she didn't say anything. She just pulled a face, and it's like, okay, yes, you did. But they're trying to remain non-culpable. So they have been shifty with data in the past. I don't think there's no two ways around that. So what they're doing with our data, we don't 100% know. But what you can do for now is you toggle off improve the model for everyone. If you are genuinely worried about what these companies are doing with your data, deploy a local model. So this is what I was just talking about with China. You can get an open source model. You can download it onto your computer and onto your computer or onto a server, and you can run that model yourself. And it has no connection back to the people who created it. It doesn't go back and forward. Instead, you are talking directly to your model, and it's the connection is just between you and your server, so it becomes private. So a lot of enterprises are doing this because it allows them to have that data security, because they know their information is not going back and forward to OpenAI. So to do this, if you wanted a Western model, it would probably be Llama. There are other ones out there, but it's probably going to be Llama or Mistral. If you don't care if it's Chinese or Western, then probably DeepSeek or ZAI, what's it called? Let me put it up. So the top one right now is DeepSeek, followed by Qwen 3, also Chinese. It's by Alibaba, followed by Exa1. I haven't used that. Oh, it's a Llama-based one, which is Meta, but it's released from LG, so Korean, followed by Nematron Super 49B version 1.5, great name, from NVIDIA. Then Alibaba's Qwen 3, Minimax M1, that's Chinese, etc. Oh, GLM 4.5, that's the new one from Z.ai. Is okay, it's about number 10 now, but you can go and download one of these models and deploy it locally, and that's going to allow you to be totally secure in your data. It requires a few steps. If you want to learn how, I would literally go to ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I deploy one of these models? It's not that hard, and there are lots of tools that help you do it very, very quickly. I basically do it for you, like one-click installs. So that is the ultimate way to get security. Obviously, there are going to be costs to running that yourself. You need to rent a server generally, but you do get that security. Any chance AI could help bring humanity to stage 1 of the Kardashev scale? So this is interesting. Let's pull up a graphic of the Kardashev scale, because it's a really interesting idea. The Kardashev scale. Gosh, these are mad images. I'm going to bring it up on my main screen. If you're on TikTok, sorry, you probably can't see this. Well, I know you can't see this. So the Kardashev scale is a method for measuring a civilization's technological advancement based on its energy consumption. So this is, you see this a lot in sci-fi. I love sci-fi. I'm reading Peter F. Hamilton at the moment. So it's based on the fact that there are probably lots of other civilizations out there, miles and miles away, well, more than miles away, like astronomical units away, a long, long way away. And one way that we could use to categorize different civilizations is how much energy they use, or specifically, how do they harness that energy? So a type 1 civilization is able to access all the energy available on its planet and store it for consumption. So it means that the whole planet is the data producer, and this only makes sense when you're thinking about like galactic empires, but basically it would be if we could tap all the energy out of Earth, and that would take us to becoming a type 1 civilization. We are not there. We are very, very inefficient. Type 2 civilization can directly consume a star's energy, most likely through the use of a Dyson sphere. So putting a structure around our star and using that to capture all of the fusion energy coming from the star itself. Pretty big. And then a type 3 civilization is able to capture all of the energy emitted by its galaxy. So again, this is sci-fi stuff, and every object within it, such as every star, black hole, etc., etc. So under this scale, the sum of human civilization does not reach type 1 status. Nope. Though it continues to approach it. Extensions of the scale have been proposed, including a wider range of power levels. Okay, we've already got quite a lot with 1 to 3. So 1 is the whole planet, 2 is our local sun, and 3 is the whole galaxy and everything within it. So yeah, potentially we are on our way towards type 1, and then we'll have to do things like putting solar farms on the moon and then piping energy down somehow, maybe through wormholes, who knows. But we're ways off it right now. I mean, we're still burning, we're burning rocks that are made out of old trees. Like, we are very when you think about it, things like coal is it just seems so primitive. It's old trees and dead animals that have been squished under rocks, and then we dig them up and burn them. That's crude. That is really crude stuff compared to a type 1, a type 2, a type 3 civilization. So we are a long way off this kind of stuff. But it's a nice goal to have. Science fiction and science do overlap a lot. They inform each other. So a lot of scientists read science fiction, and then a lot of science fiction writers study the science, and it kind of has this beneficial loop. And what's that? Arthur C. Clarke's the famous. I'm going to have to look it up. Indistinguishable from magic. So this is what I felt first time I used ChatGPT 3.5. So a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if something is so far out of our ken, so far out of our daily experience that when we use it for the first time, even if it's a technology that exists, it seems like magic to us. This is a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, who was a science fiction author. I actually had this the other day. I know this sounds so mundane, but my phone died. My iPhone, whatever it is, I ran out of battery while I was at a picnic. But a friend was there, and he said, "Oh, just give me a phone." And his was an Android phone, but it had remote charging. And we put my iPhone on his Android phone, like case to case, and it charged my phone, and it charged it up to 10%. And I know this technology has been around for a while, but I'd never seen it before. I'd never used it. I didn't know Android could charge iPhone. So I was just sitting there like, this is magic. Like, how is this working? This shouldn't work. How are they charging each other through the cases? This is so that was a moment the other day. It's just like, wow, technology is amazing. But we become so inured to technology, I think. And this is what's happened with ChatGPT, where people quibble about things that are not very good about it. And it's like, my man, like two years ago, this technology was terrible. Like we create videos now with VO3 or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, well, the hands are a bit weird." It's like, look what it's created. Compare this to a year ago. Like the speed of increase is exponential, and we as humans, we get inured to this new technology like immediately. There's a Louis CK comedy bit. Whatever you think of Louis CK, it's a good bit. He talks about how he's on a plane, and they announce it's a Delta flight or whatever. They announce, "Oh, we're pleased to announce that we now have onboard Wi-Fi. You'll be able to access the internet while flying through the air at 30,000 feet." And Louis C.K.'s like, "Wow, that's amazing." So everyone's typing away on the laptops, they're chatting, etc. And then the internet goes down. And another announcement, and the lady's like, "Oh, really sorry, the inboard Wi-Fi is not working. We won't be able to get it back before we land." And the guy next to Louis C.K. like slams down his laptop lid and he's like, "This is bullshit." And it's this amazing ability of human beings to find out about something new, to benefit from something new, and then to immediately expect it, and to immediately become, oh, what's the word? I've totally forgotten the word, but we become we expect these things, and then when it's taken from us, we basically throw a tantrum. I think the same is true with ChatGPT and with a lot of the AIs right now, is that anytime it doesn't really work or it doesn't give us exactly what we want right now, we're like, "This is trash. I hate this technology. What's the point? AI is rubbish." We need to take a step back and realize, like, no, we're coming a long way, and the technology is moving really fast. It's just that we are spoiled brats a lot of the time. If you don't read sci-fi, I highly recommend it, because it does help to kind of give a wider perspective on where humanity could go. A lot of it's dystopian, fair, but it also helps, I guess, studying history, reading sci-fi, etc. What a nerd I am. It helps expand out your time horizons. So it helps you not think about the month to month or the year to year, but instead about the general kind of flow and where we're going. And it is impressive. The technology is amazing. But we become so used to it so quickly that I think we forget that. Cool. Let me. So yeah, on the Kardashev scale, it's going to take a while, but yes, AI will be part of getting there, because we are going to need more and more power um, to build AIs. And if we get to AGI or if we get to ASI, those tools are going to help us to more efficiently harness energy, and hopefully green energy. Do you think the companies affected by this technology are happy? I assume this is reducing traffic. This is Keith. Do you mean SEO traffic? So yeah, we've seen a collapse in Google traffic, and people who rely on Google traffic to run their businesses. So SEO, search engine optimization, has been around for as long as search engines have, basically. SEO is the practice of optimizing your website to send people to your website, to tell Google, mainly Google, hey, this website is worthwhile, you should send traffic to me. So we do on-page SEO, which is like making sure the headings are good, making sure there's schema. It's basically making everything tidy so Google can read it and understand it, and also optimizing for time on page, because Google watches the behavior of people on the website. So that's on page. Off page SEO is getting links. So for example, I've secured a few links with Forbes. I've been in, I don't know, 4 or 5 Forbes articles, and they link back to my website. What that tells Google is, hey, Forbes, which is a reputable source, are linking to Kyle's website. So maybe Kyle's website is decent. We should show it to more people. So SEO is this, very broadly, is this. It's optimizing our website and optimizing how our website is connected to other people's websites. This has been an industry basically for the last 20 years. AI is changing it. I'm going to put it lightly. The thing about artificial intelligence is that we no longer need to search for the information, because all of the information is inside our generative AI systems and can be extracted and synthesized. So for example, I just talked about the Kardashev scale. If you were watching on the live, not on TikTok, but on the YouTube live, you would have noticed I read the description of the Kardashev scale from the Google AI overview. I was able to do that because I already knew what the Kardashev scale was, so I knew that it was correct. But I did that before I clicked onto Wikipedia. So a lot of searches are not going to make it to an actual website. They're just going to lead to reading the AI overview and then leaving the page. If your website depends on traffic, if it depends on people coming to your website in order to sell products to them or to give them adverts, you're in trouble. And we've already seen this. I covered this last week. The stats are all over the place, but some people are reporting like 70, 80% decrease in web traffic. But the general decrease was closer to 20% or so. But it depends. It depends on what segment and what type of website you have. So if your website is information-based only, less and less people will be coming to it because they can get that information directly from the AI overview. That's one way they can get it. Or they're asking ChatGPT. So they're using ChatGPT as a search engine, basically, which is further helped by the fact that ChatGPT now has a search function. So it can go off and check internet, check the sources as well. So yeah, ultimately, this is devastating to people who make websites. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it cope, but there's a lot of people who create websites, publishers, SEO experts who are all scrambling and say, oh, no, it's going to be fine. It's just, we're just going to work out how to integrate it with AI, and this isn't the end of the world. Don't worry about it. I think it kind of is. I think this is a really big problem. We're shifting our paradigm in how we access information. It used to be, you'd go and listen to the local storyteller in the village, or somebody would come into your village and give you the news from the outside world. So it's oral. And then we invented printing presses, so it became newspapers, for example, and then later we'd have, if you wanted a repository of knowledge, you'd go to the library. I still go to my local library to work, but not necessarily to find the books. And then we moved on to the internet, and now we're moving on to generative AI. Yes, there are problems. Generative AI is not always going to give you accurate information, but that stuff is very rapidly getting better because they are checking their sources now. So I think there is the fundamental shift in how we access information as a civilization. And because of that, the old models of building a website to run adverts on it, or affiliate sales, or even funneling into selling your own products, are at risk. And the SEO people, the SEO experts who sell services, sending people to your website, they're at huge risk too. Lots of them are pivoting into AIEO or GEO, or There's so many terrible names for it, but basically optimizing for ChatGPT. So making sure your company appears at the top of ChatGPT, or sorry, that's old Google language. Making sure that your company appears in ChatGPT. That's the new hotness. But yeah, it's a big shift. And yes, you said, do you think they're going to be happy? No, because businesses will be destroyed by this shift. So they need to be pivoting if they haven't started already. Do something to prove you're real. Oh, it's the same person. Nat. Yeah, I'm still real. You were here on Friday asking if I'm real. It's actually a really interesting question. I don't know if you're trolling, but how do you prove you're real? Because an AI could do what I'm doing right now. Ah, genuinely really difficult. Gosh, this is a bit Blade Runner, isn't it? We need a Voight Camp test to see if I'm real or a cyborg. I'm really struggling to think of a way to prove that I'm real rather than just telling you that I'm real. I don't know, if someone can give me an idea in chat, I will do it. But again, yeah, well, give me an idea. Why do you hate children, Kyle? I don't hate children. I dislike the the online safety hacks. If someone can get, oh, this is a great question, Mark. If someone can get ChatGPT to teach anything, how do you get people to buy your courses and programs? Awesome question. So I obviously sell courses and programs myself, but I think more generally we can answer this question. Yeah, how do you get anyone to buy information? Basic answer is you don't. So information is free. We can get any amount of information we want out there, no problem at all. The example that I love is MIT and Harvard. They actually publish most of their courses, especially the computer science, the engineering ones. Anyone can go on and study the MIT course for engineering, and I think you can even get a certificate or degree from MIT. You can say, I've done it all, I've done the tests, and you can get accredited. No one does it. Absolutely no one does it because information itself is not enough. Information is not the problem. There is so much information out there right now. The difficulty is action and actually sticking to something. So, what courses and accelerators and cohorts and all of these different forms, or going to university, signing up and paying to go to university, because you don't need to do that because the content's available. All of these give you a structure in which to learn, because fundamentally, most of us are quite lazy. Yes, the information's all out there. Yes, we could use ChatGPT as a personal tutor to learn this stuff, but we don't. This is the main problem, and it has been for decades. The books and the information is available, but it requires structure to get us through there. It's not enough for me to go and buy a biology textbook and then just work my way through the exercises and do the exam. The information itself is not enough. It's signing up for a course, knowing that there's a structure, having a teacher to talk to, knowing I have to go every single week, working on projects, etc. That's the valuable stuff. So if you are selling courses, if you're selling information, if you are teaching people how to do stuff, that's what you focus on. You don't focus on just the information, you focus on how to make sure people actually use it. So all of my courses now, I don't even have courses. I used to make courses where it would be, here's some videos, go through it in your own time. Doesn't work. People do not do it. And this is true before AI. They will not do it. They will download it and be like, cool, looks like a lot of work, sod that, and they won't do it. I don't know if you have a Udemy account or Coursera or whatever, but I'm sure a lot of you have signed up for many, many free courses on Udemy, done the first lesson and be like, oh, I'm not going to do this. And I think the completion rate on MOOCs, which is massively, let me look it up, MOOC completion is 5%. So MOOCs are massively open online courses. So Udemy, for example, the completion rate is 5%. I'm surprised it's that high. The information itself is insufficient. It's the structure, it's the community, it's the additional support, etc., that helps you through that material that is increasingly more important. This has always been the case, but increasingly in the world of AI, that's going to be the case as well. So this is what I say to anyone who's like, oh, why should I buy your course? Or why should I go buy your cohort or your accelerator? Because that's how I do them. They're like more hands-on. All this information's out there for free. I always say to them, go for it. Go and find that information. Go and act on it. Go and build whatever it is you want to build. If it doesn't work for you, if you're still in 6 months, you haven't acted on this, cool, come back and let's chat. Because some people, this 5% who complete MOOCs, they will go off and DIY. They will absolutely manage to get it done themselves because they are self-directed. They're self-directed learners and they are people who take action. Those people are fine. They're never going to buy these courses. They're never going to buy cohorts. They're never going to buy accelerators. No problem. Most of us, including myself, need additional help. So this is why I pay for like coaches and mentors and expert advice, because yes, I can probably work it out myself, especially with ChatGPT, but having somebody that I talk to and holds me accountable for these things is what actually matters. So for example, I started doing webinars. This is just one example from my business. I've known for years I need to do sales webinars, that it's a really important tool, it's really powerful, that's a great way to build rapport and, you know, talk to actual people, answer their questions, get them on board. I knew this intellectually for years. I'd even planned them out, but I'd never pulled the plug and did it. But I hired a guy called Virgil as like a launch coach for one of my launches. And he was like, you need to do webinars. And I said, yep, I know. And he's like, okay, so you're doing one next Tuesday. And I did. I sat down, got the webinar done, and then started doing weekly webinars. And I've now done, I don't know, 50 plus or so, just because an external person said, all right, it's time for you to do it now. That's the important thing, is action rather than information. So it's a great question. Why would anyone buy courses or programs or anything anymore? The reason is action, because we humans don't need more information. We need help working our way through that information, if that makes sense. Pekka says, if only humanity could come together and put resources on a common goal like solving energy crisis. Yeah, we're not very good at working together, unfortunately. I think coming back to sci-fi, which I was talking about earlier, the only way that we're going to work together is if we get invaded by an outside force. Otherwise, we are going to continue infighting. So if aliens turn up, we'll probably pull together. I think humans are very good at like working our way through crises. But unless there is an external threat to us, a tangible external threat, so not climate change, that's too wishy-washy in most people's brains. I'm talking about aliens with, you know, laser weapons. That's the kind of thing that will pull us together. Until that, I don't see how we're going to get over our differences, unfortunately. This is one of the big problems in AI in particular as well. So people are calling for AI to be slowed down. And there are good reasons for that as well, rational reasons. The problem is AI can't be slowed down by one party, because the other parties will just continue with their development. It needs to be unilateral. So all individuals need to agree not to use it. Companies need to agree not to use it, because if one company continues to use it, they're going to demolish the other companies in terms of competition. And countries, you need to unilaterally agree as well. So China and America both need to agree we are not developing artificial intelligence anymore. Again, humanity is not very good at working these things out. The UN is probably the closest we have to a global body that could enforce this in some way, but I mean, they'll send strictly worded letters and observers, but they don't really have the power to enforce any of this. The other problem is, and Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, has pointed this out, is that by releasing these models, open source, we've basically opened Pandora's box. So even if OpenAI and DeepSeek and Alibaba and Google, etc., all decide, okay, we are no longer pushing the development of these models, it kind of doesn't matter, because we have now released open source models into the wild. So bad actors, people who want to cause chaos, who want to create bombs, who want to make deepfakes, political deepfakes, they can do that. The models are out there. And this is one of the things that Geoffrey Hinton warned against, is we've let out a demon, basically. And it doesn't matter if all the governments and all the big companies agree, there are going to be individual bad actors who now have access to these models, and that's kind of that. So it's a bit grim. Flamingo says, love that you are a nerd. I mean, I'm doing a live stream on AI. Of course I'm a nerd. What sci-fi do you recommend? Oh gosh. So I'm reading Peter Hamilton at the moment. In general, what do I recommend? That's a really hard question. I'm just trying to think. I really like the Expanse series, and there's a TV show of it. So the Peter Hamilton I'm reading at the moment is Pandora's Star. Yeah, Pandora's Star, which is good. And I also like Alistair Reynolds. His one is, he's got a whole series called, what's it called? Revelation Space. So Revelation Space is great. Oh, and also Ian Banks. I mean, there's so many good sci-fi writers. Oh, in the world of AI, though, there is I'm actually going to go and grab it. One second. This. So make sure I'm still in focus everywhere. This is Variable Humans in Transit by the author QNTM. Quantum, I guess it's pronounced. So there's a story called Lena, Lena. This is going to be backwards for you, so it doesn't make sense. Tiny little book. I think Lena's available for free online, but Valuable Humans in Transit by Quantum or QNTM. I have no idea how you pronounce it. It's fantastic. And Lena is one of the most prescient and upsetting stories you'll ever read about artificial intelligence. It's about 30 pages long, if that, maybe 20 pages. Well worth reading. Read it today. It won't take very long. But yeah, it's upsetting. Cool. Hold up today's newspaper. I mean, I don't read the newspaper. Sorry, earlier on. So I have somebody who comes into my chat called Nat, who keeps asking if I'm real, which is a really good question. Oh, I just got up and walked around and grabbed a book. I wouldn't be able to show this because it's copywritten. If I show something that's copywritten, that I won't be able to do it, will I? Here we go. Here's a board game called King of Tokyo. I don't think I'd be able to show that if this was a AI avatar because that's a copywritten design. So I think that proves it. I don't know, Nat, you tell me. You can continue to believe I'm not real. I'll have to invite you to come and watch or something. I don't know. Turn around. He wouldn't be speaking about it if he's real or not, if he was AI, Hope says. I think an AI would, but it wouldn't be able to do it very well. It would, I mean, from the AI avatars I'd use, it would be like, oh, of course I'm real. Why do you? Yeah. Holding up today's newspaper is a really good idea. That is Sasha. I need to bring a newspaper to one of my lives to show to Nat that I am real. Say something politically charged. No, you're trying to catch me out. I won't be doing that. Blah asks, ChatGPT 5 any updates? No, not yet. Nothing that I've heard. Some people seem to have some early access, and there are some potential models that are currently on LLM Arena. I forget the name of it. They always have stupid names. Let me pull it up. There's a potential model on there which might be GPT-5 because they tend to get released there first to kind of test them out. Which one is it? I've forgotten its name. I'm not seeing it. We think it's probably coming in August. That is based on Sam Altman was on Theo Von podcast about a week ago, and he mentioned August. So we think in the next few weeks, but we will see. Funnily enough, there's a kind of a related story, which is, let me put it up. So you probably heard that. So Claude Code is arguably the best coding AI right now. It's fantastic, really good. I go between Claude Code and Gemini 2.5, but both really good. So Claude Code had on its $200 a month plan, you basically had unlimited access. You could go nuts. And last week they sent around an email saying, sorry, no longer, we're putting in limits, even if you're paying $200 a month. The reason was some people were just absolutely abusing it. They were rinsing it out. So they had, for example, Hugo, some of the biggest Claude Code fans are running it continuously in the background 24/7. These users are remarkable and we want to enable them, but a few outlying cases are very costly to support. For example, one user consumed tens of thousands in model usage on a $200 plan. So they were just running it permanently, and you could actually have multiple instances all running, and yeah, you could 100% abuse it. So people were racking up huge bills for Anthropic, the creators of Claude Code, but only paying $200 a month. So what happened? One of the people who got shut down was Anthropic revoked OpenAI's, so the creator of ChatGPT's, API access to its models on Tuesday, multiple sources familiar with the matter tell Wired. OpenAI was informed that its access was cut off due to violating the terms of service. So OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT, were using Claude Code in their creation of presumably GPT-5 or some other model. So they had it cut off. So Claude Code has become a go-to choice for coders everywhere, including OpenAI. And so it's no surprise that learn OpenAI's own technical staff are also using our coding tools ahead of the launch of GPT-5, Anthropic spokesman Christopher Nolte said in a statement to Wired. Unfortunately, this is in direct violation of our terms of service. So you're not allowed to use Claude Code. This is pretty standard. You're not allowed to use it to build a competing product or service, including to train competing AI models or to reverse engineer or duplicate the services. So yeah, it looks like OpenAI were abusing Claude Code because even they think it's fantastic and they got cut off, which I thought was extremely funny. It also means that they know that Claude Code is better at coding than ChatGPT, which it is. That's fair. But we'll see with GPT-5 coming in the next few weeks. Maybe we have something even better, but we don't know. Oh, Rajan is saying, I delivered my first AI training to 14 people last week. Fantastic. Congratulations. If you want to tell us about that, that'd be fantastic. But that's amazing. It's really important. People need help with this stuff. You probably noticed this when you went and gave the training. So if you are sitting here watching a live with some British nerd talking about artificial intelligence news and updates on a daily basis, that tells me a lot about me. It tells me that you are way more interested in these topics than the general public, and you know a lot more about what's going on. Most people don't. Most people use ChatGPT. They have if they do use it, they don't know about like model changes. They don't know about projects or anything like that. They'll just use it primarily as a Google. That is changing. People are starting to learn, but there's a huge amount of education need out there, especially in businesses. So businesses pay very well, and this is my bread and butter. I charge about £1,500 for a 1 hour workshop. I'll go and teach. The most I've charged is $4,000, which is £3,500 for 1 hour, which used to be what I made in a month. But because businesses are crying out for this, there's a huge demand to work out this AI thing. You can get paid very well. So if you are somebody who is watching these kind of lives, who's consuming content about artificial intelligence on social media, that tells me that you're in a very rarefied group of people who actually are paying attention and actually care about this stuff. What you can do is you can combine that with your own industry knowledge. So if you work in education, then you can go and talk to educators about why AI is important. If you work in manufacturing, again, you can talk to them about why it's important, and giving workshops is a really good way to do that. I also highly recommend kind of carving out your brand and your space online. So it's literally, you can copy my videos, go for it, go nuts. You find content about artificial intelligence, so news, updates, what's going on, and you just create content which is that, but for your particular niche. So if you work in marketing, you talk about what does the new GPT-5 release mean for marketers, for example. If you work in education, what does GPT-5 mean for educators, etc. There are very few people who are that niche down, and the people who do choose a niche do really, really, really well. So it's a smart play because at the moment it's open. It's an open field. If someone was a solo entrepreneur, what would be the first AI tools or automation you'd suggest? Well, it depends what you're building, really. I mean, the first AI tool is probably ChatGPT. It's a boring answer, but there are tens of thousands of AI tools out there. Most of them are GPT wrappers. So if you can work out how to use ChatGPT well, or Claude, doesn't really matter, you can do a huge, just a massive amounts of things. For something more specialized, as a solo entrepreneur, Lovable, again, I'm not sponsored by them, but Lovable is fantastic. So right now I am currently building a new website using Lovable. Again, I could do it manually. I could do it in WordPress. I could do Webflow. I could technically do it fully from scratch. That takes too much time. And as a business owner, I don't have that time. So I'm using Lovable to create basically a web app version. Lovable is a vibe coding tool. And if you are an entrepreneur and you want to turn an idea into something real very quickly, it's fantastic. It can one shot basic ideas. So if you have an idea for an application, for example, you can build it using Lovable. I'm on the $100 a month plan, but that's because I use it a lot. I think it starts at $20 a month, which is going to be enough for small projects. I just use it a lot, hours every single day. I think it's probably the most exciting tool right now for entrepreneurs because it does allow you to build so quickly. Related to that, I've created a 10-week, I'm calling it AI Summer Camp. It's all available on my website and in the newsletter, so you can follow the link in my bio for that, which is walking you through how to come up with an idea, how to test that idea with the market, how to build a minimum viability. I always slip on that. Minimum viability product using Lovable, how to test it, how to build in payments, how to build in referral systems, affiliate systems, etc. It's not really a course. Well, no, it is a course. It's totally free though. And it's 10 weeks and that's available in the newsletter. I'm currently on week 8, so I'll be wrapping it all up in a couple of weeks. So you can go and check that out. So yeah, the first tool would be Lovable and ChatGPT. The training was entry level to CIC and charities. Awesome. Some of which have never used an LLM. So this is in the UK, I assume, with CIC. So what I do, I charge businesses a lot of money to go and give them workshops, but I give pro bono workshops to charities. Personally, that's the way I kind of balance it out. I love doing the charity workshops, and as you say, they need help. So charities in particular are not getting much attention from AI trainers or AI education companies because I guess they have less money. It kind of makes sense. People are going for the big bucks. So I personally do them pro bono for charities because it's really important that they learn these things as well. So yeah, that's awesome that you're teaching. Really, really important. It's important that everyone has access to these tools, especially people who are going to be using it for good things like fundraising for their charity, for example. Awesome. I've been talking for a very long time. I had a couple of other bits and pieces, but they're all about job loss, and that's always depressing. Let's not do job loss on a Monday morning. We'll stick with the positive news. Okay, cool. So I'm going to wrap up. Again, everything that I've just recorded is going to be available on YouTube. What we do is we tidy it up. We have nice chapter headings. You can find specific topics, and then we clip it into shorter videos as well. So it's all available on YouTube. Please subscribe. We are slowly building up the YouTube. Let me check how many followers we have. It's going up by about 20 a day now, which is good, but it's still very slow going compared to my other channels. We have 2,728 subscribers. So that's not bad. Beginning of last week, it was 2,500, but still slow. So if you want to find these videos, if you find these useful, do subscribe on YouTube. It's helpful for me, and it is the main channel that I'm focusing on as well. Oh, somebody just subscribed. Thank you. I can see it real time. That's really cool. There's also a free newsletter version of this as well, which goes out every single morning, where we create a written summary of what was covered in the live, as well as links back to the videos as well. So again, it's just another way to consume the content. Although I love having you guys on the live because then you can ask questions. You can question whether or not I'm real or not. I'm sure Nat will be back tomorrow. I will bring a newspaper one day to prove it. So yeah. Oh, and someone else just subscribed. It's really cool. I can see it here. So check me out on YouTube and on the newsletter, and I will be back here around 10 a.m. every single morning, UK time. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.